So, today is April the 29th, and I decided to make my next video today, April the 29th, because today, April the 29th, is my 4-month sobriety anniversary. Yes, it is. For those of you who don't know, I've basically been drinking heavily for 10 years, and when I say drinking heavily, that's not an understatement, or it is an understatement, rather. I've lived in a bottle for the past 10 years, more than 10 years. I've struggled with my drinking on and off for a very long time, much to the dismay of friends and family who have tried to help me. And this is actually the first video I'm doing ever where I don't have a drink by my hands. So this is definitely very brand new for me. And I wanted to actually make this video in celebration of my 4-month anniversary, a video about Asperger's and how it relates to substance abuse, because they do relate, believe it or not, and a lot of people don't realize that, but they do relate. It goes without saying that people who abuse substances, drugs, alcohol, they typically do so in order to self-medicate. I guess people who are suffering from depression, they might abuse stimulants to pep them up, and I guess people who are suffering from stress, they might use sedatives and depressants to kind of tone them down a little bit and take the edge off. And people with Asperger's are no exception. Just like anybody else, they would use abuse substances to self-medicate and treat things that they're suffering with the same way that anybody else does. And I've had very poor social skills my entire life due to Asperger syndrome. And because I have poor social skills, and even before I knew I had Asperger syndrome, I knew I had poor social skills. And because of that, I developed really bad social anxiety. That's not the only reason, but that's one of the main reasons that I had really bad social anxiety, is because I knew I had poor social skills, and I came off as being aloof and as being unusual. And what I learned years ago was that drinking a lot, alcohol, it helped me better in social situations. It helped me with the social anxiety, and it helped me more comfortable with the fact that I had poor social skills. It didn't actually help with the social skills at all, but it made me feel like it did, and it also made me more comfortable with the fact that I lacked social skills. And so once I turned 21, I just basically used it as a panacea. I used alcohol anytime I'm going to a social setting, so I could feel like I could socialize better. Again, even though it didn't really help with the fact that I could socialize better. And even just sitting at home eventually, I would just, drink alone and self-medicate just so I could feel more in my skin. I suffer from a lot of depression and anxiety when I was younger too, and a lot of that was, partially due to the ostracizing and ridicule I faced from others due to the lack of social skills I had and the eccentricities, and booze seemed to help that a lot, at least at first. After a while, I became reliant and physically addicted on alcohol. And it's not imaginable that, a lot of people with Asperger syndrome, they would use drugs and alcohol for the exact same reason. And in fact, it's not only unimaginable, it does happen. And that's how substance abuse ties into Asperger syndrome. A lot of times people with Asperger syndrome, they might have to go somewhere where they have to socialize, and they know that they don't socialize well. They don't have good social skills, but that doesn't actually give them good social skills, knowing that they have bad social skills. So they'll actually use alcohol just so they feel better about the fact that they don't have great social skills, because it makes them feel like they have better social skills, and it cuts down on the social anxiety that they have from having poor social skills. And that's basically what I did for years and years and years. And the only other substance that I ever abused besides alcohol was DXM, dextromethorphan, which is found in cough suppressants, because in large doses, it's very dissociating. It's a dissociative, and not only did that help in the same way that alcohol helps, but it helped a lot with my sensory integration problems because it's dissociating. Sensory input wouldn't be as severe. So I used to abuse a lot of dextromethorphan too. I would take it before going to work a lot of times. I would take it before going to class a lot of times, and this was years ago. I don't use any substance anymore. I don't use any substance to medicate anymore ever. But I did that for years and years too, and the only reason I stopped using that was because it started to make me sick after a while. And it wasn't a good long-term solution. It was just a short-term solution that's very bad for me. And the reason I quit drinking was because of a New Year's resolution to go without drinking for a year, and hopefully I'm going to go more than a year now that I'm sober. Just looking back, it didn't help at all. And I want to note before I go any further that it's obvious that people with Asperger's, they don't socialize as much as other people do. So you might be wondering, well, if they don't interact with other people as often as other people do, how are they even introduced to drugs and alcohol? Well, there's certain ways that they are that other people might not be as often. People with Asperger's are usually taken advantage of by other people, or a lot of times they are, due to their naivete, and they're used by other people a lot of times to get drugs and alcohol. If you have someone with Asperger's syndrome who's over the age of 21, there's a good chance that people who are 18, 19, 20 might use this guy with Asperger's who's over the age of 21 to buy them alcohol. And the guy with Asperger's who's naive and who wants social exception, he might do it just to fit in, and because he doesn't know any wiser. And like they're targets for people who want to get booze or who want to get drugs. And this reminds me of a story. A few years back, there was this new kid at a high school, and the new kid at a high school, he befriended this kid with autism, and the kid with autism didn't really have a lot of friends. He didn't really fit in. He was bullied a lot by the other students. So this new kid was one of his first good friends at the school, and these two kids became pretty good friends over the span of a few months. And one day, this new kid asked the kid with autism to get him some pot, and the kid with autism was like, "Well, I don't know where to get you any pot. I don't smoke pot. I don't know anybody who smokes it." And the new kid kept pestering him about it, and saying stuff like, "Oh, come on, dude, we're friends. Aren't we friends? Aren't we good friends? Come on, find somewhere to get me some pot, man. Do it for me. We're friends." So finally, the kid with autism, not wanting to lose his one and only friend, searched around and got the new kid some pot. Well, as it turns out, the new kid wasn't even a kid after all. He was an undercover cop who had been sent to the school to bust people from drugs, and the only reason he befriended this kid with autism was to sting off the kid. Was to get him to do something illegal in order to bust him. And he was able to do that because the kid with autism was naive enough to do it. And this caused this huge shitstorm afterwards too. I remember hearing about it, and the family was upset, and they were trying to sue the police department, and the kid was devastated because he had been taken advantage of, and he felt that this new kid wanted to be his friend, and as it turns out, he was just using him to get pot. And the kid has a record now, and he's trying to get expunged, and so it was a big deal. But stuff like that happens a lot. Maybe not with kids, cops sting-offing kids to get drugs, but people use naive people in order to get to do illegal things for them, and a lot of times people with Asperger's and autism are targets of that. So that's a lot of times how they're introduced to drugs. Someone might fall into the wrong group. Someone with Asperger's, they'll fall into the wrong group of people, and they want to be accepted, and so they'll start doing drugs or drinking. And that's not just kids with Asperger's who do that. I mean, that's just kids in general, but especially kids who have Asperger's and autism. So, like I said, kids with Asperger's and autism, they don't socialize as often, and at least they don't socialize as often with as many people. So they're typically not exposed to drugs and alcohol as much as other kids are, and other adolescents, and even other adults are. but they're still exposed to it. And once they are, they could very well use drugs and alcohol in order to self-medicate the different symptoms of Asperger syndrome. And I know maybe that's not a lot of Asperger kids or Asperger's adolescents or Asperger's adults, but that definitely held true for myself. It really held true for myself. And so, like, I just, very brief video, I just wanted to kind of touch base and in dedication to my 4-month anniversary, just try to touch base on how it actually does relate to Asperger's and autism, because a lot of people don't realize that it does, that there is something to it. So I want to wrap it up just by saying that, again, I'm 4 months sober, and it's been a very tough struggle for me, because this is my first time without booze in years and years and years, and it's been over 10 years since I've gone 4 months without it. I'm 32 now, so it's been at least since I was 21, 22 since I was sober, even for a short amount of time. And I feel great, and I feel fucking awesome. It's not easy. Every day is easier than the last, but I'm having to cope with the fact that I'm not using alcohol as a crutch anymore. When I go somewhere, I went to a few months ago. This is when I was only sober for about two weeks so far. I went to a social gathering, and they were serving alcohol there, and there was a bunch of people who I didn't know, and it was loud, and I was going out of my skull, man, all the noise, and people going this way, and people trying to talk to me who I didn't know, and people talking over there, and it was just sensory, input was just driving me mad, and the fact that there were people there who I didn't know, and a lot of people there in general, it was just really eating away at me, and the thing that made it even worse was the fact that there was a bar there that was serving drinks, and I think the drinks might have even been free, too. It might have been covered by the people hosting the event. And so in the back of my mind, I was telling myself, Mike, just have a couple beers, You'll feel so much better, and you'll be able to socialize so much easier. Just have a couple fucking beers, man. And then I was like, no, I can't have any more beers. I said I was going to go sober for over a year, and it's only been 2 weeks so far, and I finally kicked the stuff because getting off the booze was not easy. I had to wean off it over the course of a few days, and I did have withdrawals, and I did have the shakes for a while, and I did have a few sleepless nights, and it was not pleasant. It could have been worse. I didn't have any DTs, but it still was not pleasant. And I've been wanting to get off the juice for a long time. And finally, I bolstered up the courage to do it and the strength to do it. So I knew I couldn't do it, and so I was just pacing around, this place where the party was going on, just trying to ease my mind. And at one point, I had to tell one of the hosts of the party, listen, I got to get out of here. I have Asperger's. I have sensory problems. I've been sober 2 weeks, and the host was like, "Oh, you've been sober 2 weeks? That is great, man. I know you've been trying to get sober." And I'm like, "It's great, but it's not great because I'm going crazy here, and I feel like I'm going to break down if I don't get out of here." And as it turns out, the woman, one of the women who was helping host it, she has really bad sensory integration problems too, so she totally understood. But I felt bad leaving because this was a function in dedication to a dead relative of theirs, and so I felt really bad leaving, but I had to get out of there. And I went home that night, and it just took so much just to calm myself down, because it had been so long since I've been out in public, especially at a noisy gathering where I couldn't drink, and to make matters worse, it was a huge fucking tease for me because there was alcohol there, and I knew I could drink, but I couldn't drink, so that was even worse. But that just goes to show that I'm trying to live my life sober again. I'm revisiting a part of my life that I had all but forgotten, a life without alcohol to cope with all my symptoms from Asperger syndrome. And so far, it's just been a huge learning process. And whether you have Asperger's or not, if you're a drug addict or an alcoholic, it goes without saying, clean up. Stop using. It's going to be a real tough job cleaning up, sobering up, and it's going to be even tougher staying off it, but each day is better than the last, and you're going to feel amazing once you stop. You're going to feel amazing once you stop using, once you stop drinking, once you stop drugging. You're going to feel so good. Every day is better than the last, and you're going to feel great. I have more energy during the day. I'm sleeping better during the day. My mood is better. I'm making great life-changing decisions, too. I'm going back to school. I'm going back to fucking college again in a couple of weeks. I never thought I would. Going back to college I thought was the last thing I was ever going to do. I've already been to college. That's it for me. I'm just going to wait for something else to come my way. Well, no. Now I'm grabbing life by the fucking balls, and I'm going to college, and I'm going to get a good job. It's a different field this time. I was going for environmental studies before. I've worked a couple park jobs, this and that, nothing huge. Now I'm going for IT. I'm going for systems administration. I'm going to work with computers, which is something totally new to me. I'm good with computers, but I don't know anything about them. And now I'm going back to school, start a new chapter in my life, and hopefully, and most definitely, get a good job, a fulfilling career. And I owe a part of that to quitting drinking, to quitting my habit. I didn't think I could do it, and I did it. So now I begin the chapter of my life, living life with Asperger's, but without alcohol to treat my Asperger syndrome. And so far, it's getting a little easier. And maybe I'll do a recap on this video months from now, just to make note of my progress and everything. And I know the first part of this video I was kind of stumbling and blah blah blah, trying to find the right words and how Asperger's relates to alcoholism, but I hope you guys get the general idea that the same way that people who are stressed or depressed, they might use a substance to cope with their stress or depression, a lot of times people with autism and Asperger's, they use drugs and alcohol to cope with the symptoms and stresses of having Asperger's and autism. A lot of times, even before the people are diagnosed with having Asperger's or autism, they'll just use it to cope with the symptoms of social ostracization, their lack of social skills in public, dealing with the fact that they lack social skills in public, and dealing with the social anxiety that they deal with in public as a result. Or, most importantly, dealing with a lot of the sensory integration problems that people with Asperger's a lot of times have. Noises being too loud, lights being too bright, too much commotion going on at once, not liking how your shirt feels on your skin. A lot of times people with Asperger's and autism might use a substance just to block all that shit out. And that's what I did, and now I'm not doing it anymore. And I just wanted to do a video touching base on that. If you have any questions about what I said, or you want to share your own experiences about abusing substances to cope with having Asperger's, autism, or any other mental illness, please, I want to hear about it. If you have anything you want to add on to what I've said, if you're not clear about anything that I said in this video, please, inquire. As always, thank you very, very much for watching my video. Please let me know if you have any other ideas of videos you want me to do, and I will catch you guys on the flip side. Later.